Hi, this is Fred with Quality One. I'm going to show you, I just brought in this JPEG from a customer. I'm going to go to mode. I'm going to change it to grayscale. And just say OK. And then I'm going to go to image, edit. Let's see, what do I have to do? Adjustment. And I want to invert it. And then I'm going to go to image and adjustment levels. And I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, and I'll show you why I'm doing this in just a moment. And then say OK. Then I'm going to take a section of this and just hit enter and crop that, and then I'm going to go ahead and save it. And then I'm going to minimize this. Now into I've got EngraveLab open here, and I know that the plate size is supposed to be 4 1/4 by 8. And I'm going to go File, Import, and I'm going to go to this plate 1 and import it in. And I can kind of see, oops, I'm going to get my magnifying tool here, and I'm going to make it about what it's supposed to be. I can see I'm a little bit over, so I'll make it 4.5. Oops, let me not do it that way. I need to change this so that it's locked. So 4.5 and enter. And that is 4.5 by 8 1/4. And you can see I've got a little bit of margin out there. And now here is a box that I created. And if it might be easier, what I'm going to do is just move this all up. And I'm going to start with a plate size layout. Plate size 8 for width and 4.25 for height, and say OK. So here's my plate. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I don't need this box any longer. So here's my tag. And if I wanted, let me go ahead and go to layout and plate the object so I can see, and I can go to range, order, send to the back, so that now I can see here's my plate size, and then here's my, and I'm going to use my arrow keys to get it in there. Now I've already typed this in, but this is just, I typed in text, and you can see it's quite a bit too big, so I'm going to double click on the baseline, swipe through it, and maybe make this 188, hit enter. And you could measure your exact text, but it looks like it's actually going to even be smaller than that. Swipe through this and make it 1/8 of an inch. And if you wanted to, you can kind of zoom in here, and I can make it proportionally bigger, or I can just go here, right mouse click, and just maybe make it 0.15 to see what height it is. So that was probably the height that they used. And my text is a little bit straighter than the text that's on the screen, and if I wanted to, I can kind of compress this in. So here's my text. This is what I'm going to be engraving, and we'll center a lot of it later. Now I'm going to type, and this is why I made it gray, so you can just type right over it. I'm going to type in Portland, comma, Oregon. And I'm going to swipe through this and go to, close that, I don't need that, go to here and make it all uppercase. And this is going to go down here, F7 to zoom in on just that. I'll hold the shift key, I'm sorry, the control key, the alt key, and it makes it proportional scaling. And looks like it was condensed a little bit. And the fonts are going to be a little bit different, but you could space these out. Let me just see if there's a little bit of space in here that I left too much. No. Okay, so here's your first lines of text. Now on your next line of text, of course you could get the measurements from the other program, but I'm going to put in another line of text. I'm going to put this model in, M-O-D-E-L, and I guess I should just put the caps lock on. I don't have to screw around with this, all uppercase. And here's the word model, and I just compressed it just a little bit. Now, I am guessing that this value, model, is going to stay the same, but this is going to be a variable. So I'm going to just type in, if I want, I can just go right here, and I can duplicate this. I'm going to go under Options, EngraveLab Setup, General Preferences, and I'm going to make this X offset 1 inch, and say OK. And the other thing that I want to do on this text is I want to make sure that it's left aligned, which it is, which it was not. So I'm going to move it over. So now it is, in fact, left aligned. And I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate it, and it moved it 1 inch over. And now I'm going to double click on the baseline and swipe through this. And because I can't see it, I'm going to double click on the baseline and swipe through it. Put my caps lock on, BATT-55-3-DC. And again, I'm going to compress this down a little bit and bring that in. Okay, so this is going to be the text that, now I'm still on the same baseline as what I put on over here, so this is going to be a variable text that's going to be available to you. So I'm going to hit Control Duplicate again, and actually it's not on the same baseline. I have to type it in. And this is, I'm going to double click on the baseline here, swipe through it, CTMV, CTMV CERT period date. Cool. So by a process of putting these variables and boilerplate information, you can go all the way across the sign. Now once you get these all set up, what we can do, let's go ahead and zoom in. I could have hit the F5, and I'm going to get back and I'm going to go to a blank area on the screen and right mouse click, and I'm going to put guidelines in. So I'm going to start with one right here. It really doesn't matter, and click on Add. And right now they're locked, and I'll say that they're not to be locked. So here's a guideline. I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to add another one. 88. Add 0.94. Add, and then just say OK. And this is going to be my baseline for the model. This one's going to be the baseline for dot, and then I'm going to drag this one down here. And if you know what these baselines are ahead of time, it makes it all the much easier. So I'm going to hit F6 to zoom out. So you could put these baselines in ahead of time. And now, usually what I do is I right mouse click in an open area, and I lock the guidelines and then say OK. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look here, and I'm going to purposely take this and move this right at the baseline. And what you want to do is get a straight letter that's on the baseline. So here's the lower case, or get the B right on the baseline, and now all of these will be perfectly set. This one's already perfect there. Go across the CT. The bottom of the C would not be a good one. You go to the bottom of the T or the bottom of the V or the bottom of the R would be where you would, and the bottom of the E, you can see how that's right on that baseline. And then you just continue to type in text. You just hit Control D to duplicate it, bring it up here, double click on the baseline. And this could be, if you had it in Notepad, you could have all these already pre-typed in, but 01/2013, and then this is going to be information that you're going to put down here. You're going to have another string of text that's going to be serial. Oops. SERIAL, and so forth. Drop it down to the baseline, scrunch it up a little bit, and remembering that this artwork is a little bit crooked. You can see how it's tilting up. You can take this and maybe twist it maybe 0.5 degrees to bring it back in line a little bit closer, and then you're going to just bring your text down, and you can see pretty easily how you can get this all lined up in a fairly short period of time. Now, once you know that you have a set of variables, and then what you're going to do is delete. Let me go F8 to zoom in on everything. After you get this all typed in, all the stuff that's going to stay, that's boilerplate, you could select it all. So here's this going to stay boilerplate, the serial. I'm holding the shift key down. You got to be kind of careful with that bitmap behind it. So these three items are all going to stay exactly where they're at. Only thing that's going to change is the serial number and the model number. So I can hit Control G to group it, so that from now on that number will stay. And then you just continue on down the line. If you know your spacing, you could start by putting all these guidelines in. If it's going to be perfectly spaced text, you could type it in that way. But on something like this, because you've got these variables changing, you need to allow for those to change. Now keep in mind, with EngraveLab, you could have a text file, so you could go in and change each one of these. You could have 7 or 8 different variables that you use in Excel spreadsheet in order to create this variable for the next tag, rather than going in on each one and looking at this and saying, okay, on this next tag it's going to be BAT56-3DC. You could do that in a text file. Hope this helps.